So Sweden is actually taking people's trash and they're making electricity out of it. They're not just taking their own trash. They have such a good incineration program that they're actually taking Norway's trash and other European countries' trash, and they're turning it into heat, which they have like some system where they have heated water being pumped through pipes, so they have heat, and they create electricity out of people's trash. I mean, this is, yeah, how much futuristic can you get? This is Back to the Future, right? This is what they was doing Back to the Future. You know, Marty, it's your kids, Marty. And so he just started putting all that trash inside there to create energy, right? That was the gasoline of the future, people's trash. And there is something to that, right? All mass and energy is all related. Einstein's little theory, right? E equals mc squared. Energy is equal to the mass of an object multiplied by the speed of light squared. E equals mc squared. That is actually Stephen Hawking's one of his favorite equations. So let's take a look at what Sweden's doing, right? Sweden's one of the top economies. We keep hearing about Scandinavia. The entire Hanseatic League actually is kicking ass. Netherlands, Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, Qatar, Thailand, Singapore. A lot of these places, Malaysia, Malau, Makua. This is just a dot on the map. And they have like some of the highest GDP per capita. So what is Macau doing? Whatever Macau is doing, they're fucking kicking ass. And I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit later. This is just more of a teaser. Here's another sort of alliance. It's a German multinational financial services company headquartered in Munich, and its core business and focus is insurance. This is one of the top 100 economies in the entire world. Then one of the top economies. This corporation tops more countries. You know, they're not just an incredible corporation making a shit ton of money, but they're also better, you know, have a stronger economy than a lot of nation states, a lot of countries. And that's a problem. If economists are only comparing nation states, then we're ignoring the incredible amount of concentrated power that corporations are being able to make for just themselves. If you have a corporation, that's a nation within a nation, right? You're talking about all these no-go zones and the Muslims and then France and all this shit. You got fucking non-citizens, you know, Walmarts and your McDonald's and all these Lions. Do you have any affiliation with the Lions? Why do you give a fuck if they make a shit ton of fucking money? Eon.us at one point there in Kentucky Coal, and that was one of the biggest energy companies out there. And if corporations are just as big, I mean, in fact, they might even be more totalitarian, right? They clearly have a corporate ladder. There's clearly a hierarchy. No democratic processes, and all they want to do is make money, right? Just for the fucking their shareholders or for the CEOs and shit. Pay some the cheapest fucking wages, right? Make some products and just throw it out to the public. And their product is insurance. So that means they print up pieces of paper and say, hey, we'll cover you. And then when you have a fire, then or a wreck or some shit, they say, oh, you had a precondition, you know, there was something, you know, so they can deny you. They print up a piece of paper saying they got insurance, and when you need the insurance, they'll fucking deny you. That's why we're giving these motherfuckers almost $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion. Jesus Christ. So we're going to talk more about that, because out of the top 100 economies in the world, 51 of them are corporations. 51 of them. And if you were to take off the top 9 countries, the corporations have more money than all the rest of humanity. 4/5 of humanity. Corporations has all the money, and 4/5 of the 7.3 billion people on this planet get nothing. They get nothing. So, but it's just wild to me, because it's wild, but it's also important when you start, making rankings. When you have a ranking that says who's got the highest GDP, instead of saying France or Germany or whatever and measuring a country's, overall GDP, really you could start saying, well, how much is Germany, and then how much is Walmart? How much is Walmart in Germany? How much are these corporations inside? Because they have You know, they are multi-corporation, multinational corporations. They have, you know, they span the globe. They go everywhere. And they're like, you know, no-go zones. You can't walk into fucking Fox News and say, hey, stop doing what you're doing. You know, they sat there and talked about the no-go zones and shit. I saw Russell Brand wasn't allowed to go into Fox News. Fox News is a no-go fucking place. So, you know, that's private versus public or whatever, but that's important. You know, those are important things. What's private versus what's public? What is everybody's versus what is just yours? And so corporations are a nation within inside a nation, and they're more totalitarian. They're taking all the resources, and they only give a shit about themselves, and nobody seems to be, you know, saying anything about it. Even when corporations began, say with the colonists, right? The English colonies and the Dutch and the Swedish and the French colonies, they wanted to make a profit. So they said, all right, well, finance this, go do your thing. And then once it was done, you know, I was watching the Pilgrims movie. They was for 7 years. They were obligated for 7 years to continue to make a profit. For 7 years, we'll finance the expedition, but you got to make money and send us some shit back. And so for 7 years, they were indebted in order to do this. But once that was up, that was it. That's, you know, they eventually became their own fucking states and shit, right? So the idea of the corporation was a temporary charter. We need to build this bridge. So a corporation is made. That corporation has a fund, has, you know, whatever treasure and people, and then they get the bridge made. And once the bridge is made, it's fucking over. It's done. The bridge has been made. Now the point for the corporation doesn't need to stay anymore. And instead of doing things like that, corporations just get a charter and they get to exist willy-nilly, you know, to the end of time. And democracy is totally, you know, they're not going to fix themselves. Democracies are supposed to, you know, tell corporations what to do. If corporations aren't going to do, you know, the right thing, human rights and making money should not be the opposites. But many times, if the corporation can get away with it, they will fuck you over and they will not give a shit about it. So that's coming up. You know, I'm gonna talk about all the, you know, out of the top 100 economies, you know, 51 of those economies are corporations. So when we have a top 100 list, and if you don't mention any of the corporations, that is not a good list because you know, the corporations actually as a whole own more than 4/5 of all of humanity. So, you know, instead of, in fact, it might even be smarter not to, you know, list some countries versus listing other ones. Let's see here. Let's check out one of the poor countries. So say like, let's go to the bottom of the list. Central African Republic. It is not a good idea for the Central African Republic, you know, to mention the Central African Republic and compared to the wealth of everybody else, and to not mention, you know, any of the corporations. The Central African Republic isn't making anything close to the corporations what they make. You know, they're on the bottom of the list of when it comes to countries. And so when it comes to the top economies, instead of just naming a whole bunch of countries, you know, we should have, you know, there's Alliance, and then there's a whole bunch of other ones too. Robert Bosch, Siemens, Volkswagen, Citigroup, BP, Amoco, IBM, AXA, Marubeni. Right, they're making, this is how much they make in GDP per year. This was 2011. So they made $91 billion. $91 billion is what Marubeni made. What does Marubeni do? I have no idea. I don't know what Marubeni does, but they make $91 billion, you know, dollars in GDP. So let's go to this here and let's check out compared to the Central Democratic Republic of Africa. This is their purchasing power actually per dollar. So I don't know actually what I'd be checking out here. The GDP total is what I would look for, right? So GDP total, let's just go here to the bottom of the countries, and we're going to do a different one. We're going to do Tuvalu, and Tuvalu makes $37 million. Okay, so Tuvalu doesn't even... They make no, you know, it makes no sense to keep Tuvalu even as an entity. It would be smarter just to incorporate it and then just, you know, make it one big ass, the whole country is one big fucking corporation. And they would do, you know, better economically. So that's all I'm saying is when you think about the biggest, you know, economies, it's one thing to say, well, Kentucky's doing, you know, not as good as, you know, Tennessee, but it's doing better than Indiana or whatever. You should also say, well, how about the state itself but are you adding all the corporations inside of it? Or how about what if you just took some of those corporations? What if you just took the corporations and took them off the equation and see how much wealth the rest of the people actually have? You know, if you take away the corporations inside the state, does the state lose all of its financing? Does the state have no fucking power? You have no corporations. If the work of the corporations is not involved in the state aggregate, compilation of like how much stuff they're making, their GDP, are they making anything, right? So, I think that's fair, because if the top economies are corporations, then we're looking at the world in the wrong way. We're looking at the world in sort of old, 19th century standards with nation states, when these multinational corporations are stateless, right? They're stateless. They're just in office buildings, and they're a file in some file cabinet, office buildings, and then whatever assets and land and shit that they owned, right? That's it. That's all. That's their country. And since they're a private, private entity, that means people don't have a right to actually go in there to them. Nation state says that they have a monopoly of violence, so theoretically the state is allowed to go into a corporate building. So Fox News has a no-go zone, right? No, Russell Brand, you cannot come in here. Since Fox News has a no-go policy, then that is, since it's private, we're supposed to respect it. But in a democracy, we can go on up in there. We can see what the hell is going on. We can check out our military bases, check out the CIA, whatever is in our nation state. We're allowed to see what is going inside those buildings. What's going on in the Financial Reserve or the Federal Reserve? Why have we not audited the Federal Reserve? That makes no sense. So we're going to go here to talk a little bit about Sweden's waste incineration program. Genius. It's absolute genius. Taking trash and turning it into energy. Sweden's waste incineration program, which began in the 1940s, treats over 2 million tons of waste each year. It heats 810,000 homes and provides electricity for 250,000 homes, all from burning trash. 100, oh my God, electricity for 250,000 people, and it heats nearly, 810,000, exactly 810,000. You're getting heat, you're getting electricity, and then they say that it's not enough. They don't have enough trash. They have to buy other people's trash. So, Sweden, the most likely to the delight of its neighbors, started importing 800,000 tons of trash annually from surrounding countries. PRI explains, in the arrangement, Norway pays Sweden to take the waste off their hands, and Sweden also gets electricity and heat. But dioxins in the ashes of the waste product are a serious environmental pollutant. Ostlund explained that there are also heavy metals captured within the ash that need to be landfilled. Those ashes are then exported to Norway. So Norway has found out that it is cheaper, instead of landfilling their fucking trash, to send their trash to Sweden. Sweden burns it and then gives back the fucking bullshit. So since it's saving Norway money, it helps them. Sweden's taking other people's trash, getting electricity from them, and then they have this toxic fucking waste that they got to dispose of, and Norway takes the toxic waste back. And for Norway, it's cheaper. It's cheaper instead of just burning all the fucking shit itself. I guess maybe they ain't allowed to burn it. Maybe they ain't burning it. Maybe that's just, that's pollution in the air. That's straight fucking pollution right in the air. But dioxins in the ashes of the waste product. So for some reason, doing that entire thing is actually cheaper than putting it into a landfill. They sell their trash. They have less waste to store once the trash has been taken out, and they can save landfill space. And so that's incredible. It said that there's a trash crisis. There are other countries in Europe that could also use some help from Sweden. Naples, Italy, produces more garbage per square meter than anywhere else in the world. That, combined with the strong mafia presence in the area, it's never good when the mob is involved in handling waste. It's led to a trash crisis. It's not surprising then that Italy is one of the countries that may export trash to Sweden in the future. One day, perhaps Italy, Norway, and other countries will realize they're actually giving away a precious energy resource. Until then, Sweden is happy to be the garbage man of Europe. Americans in general are bad at recycling. In 2010, U.S. residents recycled 34% of their waste. So a third of the trash got recycled, which is kind of embarrassing when you compare it to the Netherlands, Germany, or Austria, where people recycle almost all of their waste. In Sweden, people are so diligent about recycling, only 4% of all trash goes in the landfills. It's a heartening statistic, but it's led to a problem for the country. There's not enough garbage to power the country's large waste-to-energy program. Sweden's solution import trash. These statistics are incredible. It's absolutely genius, okay? People are so diligent about recycling that just 4% of all trash ends up in landfills. Only 4%. Whereas Americans, 66% of all of our trash is going into landfills. Just heaping landfills, more and more trash on top of pile, more and more trash, when that's actually an energy resource. So if we had an incinerator like Sweden, if we were just to take our own damn trash and turn it around, we would profit from it. We'd be creating electricity. The coal companies have the money to do it. But you know, King Coal, you know, the politicians and the coal company owners, they don't give a shit about the people, so they don't give a fuck about actually giving the, you know what I mean? Like in Alaska, they get a check in order to mine all the oil that's there, but we don't get a check in Kentucky when they mine our coal. They take our coal, they take it for their own profits. It goes to the Pennsylvania corporations or TEON or Germany or who the fuck ever owns coal, you know, at any given year. And we get, you know, we get the same prices. You know, oh yeah, electric prices are cheaper. Fuck you. It's the same fucking price. I'm paying 9.5 cents, the $400 for 2 fucking months. $400 is my fucking heating bill. That's the same as a mortgage. I mean, that's the same as my fucking rent. Just to, you know, just to keep warm. And good thing I still got a decent heater that, you know, that heats the thing up. But I definitely invested in some type of burning stove, wood burning stove would make sense. So that is something in the long run for me to think about. But it also, you know, when you have a wood burning stove, you can burn your own trash, right? And I guess that's fucking pollution. I don't know how people are going to feel about that pollution or whatever. But anyways, that's, you know, at least I'm utilizing the trash instead of just filling up the fucking landfills, and they're incinerating it too. I don't know if they're doing it like in a better, more cleaner way. But regardless, instead of having just piles and piles of trash, you know, we can start to look at the things that we throw away. Can we reuse it? Can it be burned? Can you incinerate it? Can you recycle it? Can it be reused? And I think that's just a smart fucking way to live, to be honest with you. We're such a fucking consumption-based society. You consume all this shit, throw it all away. Nobody gives a fuck, right? So there's so much wealth around here. People like bottled water. Or go to McDonald's, you get napkins and all the paper and stuff. But bottled water, somehow you can go to a manufacturer, get all the oil and fucking make plastic and make little bottles and then fill those bottles up with water and sell it for $1. That's insanity. That's fucking crazy. They make money doing it, so, you know, congratulations for them for figuring that shit out. Bottled water, right? Bottled fucking water. So Sweden has a waste incineration program. It would be stupid for Kentucky not to do that. Does Kentucky not have trash? All these fucking Europeans, every country should be doing this. It makes no sense whatsoever to be wasting our fucking trash when we could turn trash into energy and electricity. Have a fucking incineration plant. That's a fucking genius idea. Have an incineration fucking plant where all the waste, all the garbage of the entire fucking state and every other neighboring state get on this shit first. That's the thing that Kentucky doesn't do. We don't get on shit first. You know, instead of being the last fucking state 20 years behind in shit, what if we was the first fucking state to start doing shit? We were the pioneers. You had Daniel Boone was a pioneer. You know, they was pushing the frontiers, pushing the boundaries. He was the first one to do this thing. Why can't we have more people like Daniel Boone who's being, you know, venturing into unknown areas, and then we could discover new and make our society better? Instead of just saying, well, my daddy never did that, my daddy's never did that, my daddy's daddy. Well, he had slaves, you know, and he had the slaves killed, and the Native Americans stole their land, and then made the slaves work on the land that he stole, and then he became rich. Yeah, well, that's real fucking great for you, you fucking asshole. But that was a bad fucking business model for the society, right? You forgot about your goddamn slaves. You made sure you fucking profited, but you didn't give a shit about them. So Sweden is doing something smart. We should follow their lead. We should, you know, make trash energy. Why would we not? There just seems like there's no fucking reason to do it or to not do it. There's no fucking reason whatsoever. What? No. I want to fucking pollute the world. No. If you throw trash away, you're a fucking pollutionist. You're a fucking litter bug. Don't throw that trash, you know. What are you going to do? Throw that piece of paper in the fucking garbage? You fucking wasteful son of a bitch. Right? You could have recycled that. You're going to throw that fucking jar away? You can, you know, use that jar for something. 4%. Only 4% of Swedish garbage ends up in a landfill. Just 4%. Due to its efficiency in converting waste to renewable energy, Sweden has recently begun importing around 800,000 tons of trash annually from other countries. Norway is now paying Sweden to take its garbage. Swedish sights are also set on Bulgaria, Romania, and Italy as future trash exporters. As Katerina Osterlund, the senior advisor for the country's Environmental Protection Agency, told PRI, those countries rely heavily on landfills, a highly inefficient and environmentally degrading system. So, the Scandinavians have made trash chic, which is, a cute little fucking thing to say. Americans are only recycling 34%, so most of our trash is just going right into the fucking ground. No one gives a shit. There's some interesting things here at the bottom of this article. It says it's not a long-term solution, really. We need to be better to reuse and recycle. But in the short perspective, I think it's quite a good solution, and he absolutely is right. He says, we have the world's best incineration plants concerning energy efficiency, but I would say in the future, this waste will be valued even more so. Maybe you could sell your waste because there will be a shortage of resources within the world. So he says, I hope instead we get the waste from Italy or from Romania or Bulgaria or the Baltic countries, because they landfill a lot in those countries. They don't have any incineration plants or recycling plants. So they need to find a solution for their waste. In fact, landfilling remains the principal way of disposal in those countries, but new waste-to-energy initiatives have been introduced in Italy, Romania, Bulgaria, and Lithuania. So, they're sitting there saying that these countries don't have good waste programs, but they're working on it. So if fucking Romania and Bulgaria, and Italy and Lithuania is fucking coming up with this shit, and the Swedes are coming up with this shit, Kentucky could do the same shit. Why the fuck would Kentucky, y'all such white trash, y'all want to keep your fucking trash? I'm white trash. I loves my trash. I just want to throw my trash in the fucking ground. I don't want to do nothing with my trash. I'm a dumb hillbilly. I love my ignorance. What the fuck? Yeah, well, let's quit being fucking ignorant. Trash. Y'all love your trash that goddamn much. So there's two fucking just unbelievable, incredible fucking ideas. Trash into energy, and then also the guaranteed income. $10,000. Everybody gets a check made especially from King Coal. King Coal writes you a check, takes the fucking coal and sells it all over the world. And pollutes your fucking backyard and gives you fucking cancer. So, trash energy. Sweden. Sweden's one of the happiest, best democracies in the world. Great education system, free healthcare, free fucking everything. I like how they do prisons. And I like how they do everything. Scandinavia is fucking kicking ass. Scandinavia, Norway, Denmark, Netherlands, Germany. Those cluster of countries right there at the Hanseatic League are just fucking kicking ass, man. Just kicking ass. We should do what they're doing. I mean, Netherlands, Denmark, these countries, the Sweden, I think they're just as big as Kentucky. Actually, those countries, Denmark and Netherlands, especially Luxembourg, are way smaller than Kentucky. Luxembourg is a dot. It's a fucking dot on the map. A dot. And if a dot could fucking produce like a motherfucker, then a whole state should be able to produce like a motherfucker too.